episode of the Lisa Pezik Show. How do you champion people? I am so excited to nerd out about this concept today because before we got on this podcast, I have my friend here, Lawrence Henderson, who is the organizational development guy. He leads people. He helps get stronger teams and really learn how to champion people. That's the word that came up when we were chatting. And I said, I don't know if people know how to really do that. I think our heart's in the right place and we want to do it, but we don't realize that sometimes we let our ego get in the way, or we micromanage people, or sometimes when you're pushing a new comfort zone, that scarcity or that competition kind of comes up and you don't know where you land. But it's no good for you and it's no good for anyone around you. So that's what we're diving into today. Lawrence, hi.
How is it going, Lisa?
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me. This is an awesome Monday, and I'm ready to get rolling.
So if some of y'all have been listening, you know I talk about my G, Ginger Johnson. So G is a connector of people, and G hooked me up with Lawrence. And instantly, when I got on with him, I just felt this connection. Like, you know, when you meet someone, you're like, they're a good person. They got a good heart. Their head's on straight. They want to make some serious impact in this world. And we just instantly hit it off. So I'm so glad he's here today. And let's get into, so Lawrence, tell them a bit about, I know you're going for your PhD. Congratulations, which is amazing. But where did you start? You started in the Army, was it right?
Yeah. So started, did 12 and a half years active duty in the U.S. Army as an Army officer, and navigated through, several different branches of service. Start off in infantry as a young combat infantry leader, then transitioned into the more softer skilled HR side of the house. And then my last several years was on the business end of the Army and doing acquisitions, project management, contract management things. And then transitioned out a little over 5 years ago into this brave new civilian world where I was trying to seek alignment, seek purpose, and truly seek identity. And where I fit in this big old world of ours. And I've been navigating well, and G is a awesome, masterful connector. And I am so grateful and thankful to her in this season of life of uncertainty, where others saw it as I need to hoard. She is freely giving of her network and just connected me to you, Lisa, and several other awesome folks, Maggie. And man, she's opened up her Rolodex, and I'm so eternally grateful for it.
Well, first I want to say thank you for your service.
Yeah.
So much. And secondly, I love your vulnerability of saying this is an uncertain world that you stepped into. Because I think sometimes when people see, served in the Army, worked your way up, did amazing things there, now, educated, going for your PhD, they think you got it all figured out and you know everything about everything and you know some secret they don't know. And I love that you're just out there, you're meeting people. And I love what you said about Ginger, how she shares openly and freely. And we know the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the CEOs that share openly and freely build trust with people. And I think that's one of the quickest ways to champion is to 100%. Build that trust. Did you have to learn that over the years, or how did that go for you?
Well, first, I am the product of Lawrence and Barbara Henderson, where I am one of 7 kids.
Whoa.
So yeah, me and my brother are the youngest. We have 5 older sisters. So trust and confidence in family started early. But as a soldier, one of the greatest things I tell people, one of the greatest lessons a year out of college is being told you're going to deploy to Iraq and you're going to lead men into combat, and ranging ages of 17 to 40. And again, you just met these people 7 months before this deployment. And now to go into an uncertain situation where lives are on the line, you got to build trust and credibility really, really fast. And so you remove the scales of, your backgrounds, your upbringings, all of that stuff comes to play, but we have a common mission. We have a common goal. And I think how do you champion really is all around how quickly can you get everybody to be accountable in how they show up. And you have to be present every single moment going into things like that. And I think learning that early, it was how to be present, how to show up. Even when I don't feel well, got to show up. But not believing I have to be on my A game all the time, but trusting those around me that there are going to be those ebbs and flows and that the team is really good. Because again, I'm only one person, and to go into combat with 30 plus men, I had to believe they were really good as well. And we trained that way. We developed that way. We lived that way every single day leading up to that deployment. And then during deployment, staying vigilant around our habits and the behaviors and all the things we did. And once I transitioned out, took that same approach to how I connected out here. And I would tell you, I would be lying if I said I immediately started out with that mentality. I was watching all the blogs in the world around elevator pitches, how to transition well, all the rest of that. And I was beginning to be frustrated when I would meet somebody and I would have my pitch ready and their eyes would almost glaze over. And it was almost like, all right, well, it's great to meet you. And it was almost like walking away from me. And I was like, man, okay, that article didn't work. Let me go back and read another one. And so I had all this craziness in my head around what it meant to network on this side of the house, which is why I actually makes me want to vomit the word network. But I was doing it wrong. I wasn't doing it my way. I wasn't connecting. And once I made that transition mentally, it opened my whole awareness around what it looked like for me, and that's what I began to lead with.
Stop you there because there are so many good nuggets I want to get back. So I love when you talked about getting super present, and the word that came up for me was almost like a responsibility, right? Like it's you and it's the person to the left of you and it's the person to the right of you, whether you're going into combat and it's life and death, or you're going into the boardroom, or you're going to an event, or wherever your team and you, there's that responsibility, even thinking about where it's like nobody's left behind, but don't be that person that someone's got to constantly drag you along. You can get present when everybody is like, I'm here. I'm responsible for what I got to do. I'm responsible to this team. I'm responsible to being here. So I love that. And I love where you talked about the vigilance. You got really vigilant about knowing what you need to do and where you need to go and what you need to learn. Even though those blog posts weren't you, think about the learning you learned in that. That, hey, they're telling me to do it this way. And you tried it, but you learned in the trying part that that's not how you want to do it. Most people never even get to the trying part. They read the blog post and they get so scared and they never do. And then you never learn. So that was such a good example of not a failure, a learning. And when you were saying about their eyes just glossed over, they weren't even listening because you weren't you. Right? And you listeners, don't you just love him already? Like there's so much goodness to you and we can't be afraid to bring that out. So I love that you learned and then you went and did it a different way. Why does networking, it's me too, why does it make you want to vomit when you hear the word networking?
I think about it very antiquated, very digital. When I think network, I think about computers and I think about the Internet of Things. And I think about networking as a transaction that's happening. And because I am always looking for the connection and the bigger why in something, I just don't haphazardly want to have a conversation. Like, again, I'm cordial. I am extrovert if you ever met one. But as I navigate this life as a coach, I'm trying to stay present for the person and hold space to hear depth and to hear a need and to hear what you want to bring to the world. And one, I'm listening for how can I help? And I think that's totally changed the game for me as it pertains to why networking, but connecting, because I'm listening to actually get to work for you, whether that's passing you on to someone else, whether that's, hey, there's an opportunity on my podcast, or you know what, I got this really awesome friend named Lisa who has this awesome podcast that I believe I'm going to connect you all virtually. And so I'm listening for that. That's why networking, you could still use it in a post or two, but nah, it's connecting for me.
I love that you said you're listening to hear depth.
Yeah.
And how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
That is you're listening to champion the person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what that is. Depth. Again, I don't want to know what you do. I mean, I do want to know what you do.
Yeah.
But I want to know why you do it.
Boom.
It's that impact that we talked about. And when I say, I am Lisa, I live in Toronto, I'm a business strategist, and I help you take your products and programs online with excellence. You're right. People's eyes just glaze over.
Yep.
As opposed to when I say, I believe everybody has a voice.
Boom.
And we got to amplify that and we got to use it. And sometimes you don't know what the right next step for you is to go. And that's where I help you figure out, where do you take that right next step? Because I want you to succeed. I want you to amplify your voice. I want you to get this. Then you're like, ooh, tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or even me, you got to think about as the person, are you speaking with depth? Or are you giving them the 30-second elevator pitch that you were told, to do? Yeah. And I was at this event and they did an online, I spoke at the event and then they had a networking hour on Zoom, which was really interesting. But everyone kept saying, I need to learn how to network better. I need to learn how to network better. And I said, no, you just need to talk to me. You don't need to learn anything. Mm-hmm. You almost need to unlearn what you've been told. And you need to just tell me who you are as a human being, right?
Yeah, because I believe we begin, and it's funny how we're unlearning the anecdotal statements, the innuendos that everybody used to just spout on a speaking stage, and particularly around, bringing your whole self to work and how taboo that used to be. But now I tell people I'm looking for opportunities with organizations that are not afraid for me to bring my whole self, because they've removed judgment, or they're beginning to remove judgment, because they understand you're dealing with humans. We're squishy, we're messy, we got stuff going on. And oh, by the way, we just so happen to have a skill you need in your organization. But understand, all that stuff leads first. Because if I get a text from my wife, I'm dropping everything. If it's an emergency, and I can recall when I first got out the Army, for the first time, I was able to react to being around family on a consistent basis. In 2016, I'll never forget it. Like, it was like yesterday. I got a phone call from an unknown number. I had just got off the phone with my wife probably 15 minutes before. And I am not my job. I am not my position description. I am a person with a family and needs. She just got in a wreck. Don't say nothing else. What hospital are you taking her to? I'm on the way. Period. I'm telling my manager as I'm walking by, I'm not explaining anything to you.
Yeah.
I'm a whole person. And so when you're in these organizations and when I'm working with a new client, I don't sit my values on the shelf just to listen to you. No, my values come to play, because the questions I'm going to ask you in a needs assessment, or as I'm having a dialogue with you, my values are coming through, because I want to be respectful of Lisa. I want to make sure I'm listening how she actually values and acts out integrity. I'm going to make sure I love servants. I love servant leaders. So I want to hear your stories around service. And then I want to understand through the clients you have and the work you do. And if your family doesn't come up at all, I'm not really sure if you actually show up and operate with excellence.
Yeah.
And so in all of that, I just said my values: respect, integrity, service, excellence. Like it just, they always come to play. And I believe that's one way that we can be present and champion with people is don't leave yourself at home. Bring all of you, because you actually create a risk for people to treat you the wrong way if you leave parts of you behind.
It's like, I'm not going to ask permission for my values at the place that I work or the place that I service. You weren't saying to your boss, hey, my wife was in a wreck. Can I have permission to go to the hospital? And you're like, I'm out. But and you get from that story, you're loyal. You drop everything if need be when something really important or necessary needs to be done. Yeah. And I think we need to embrace more of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember I was in a mastermind and we couldn't find a sitter for Oliver, and we brought him. And I said to my mentor, either I have to bring him or I can't come.
Yeah.
And he's a family man with a family, gets it. And he's like, yeah, cool. Just his wife actually found us a sitter when we were there at the mastermind. But same, I was like, come heck or high water, my whole family and I were going and we're going to figure this out. And I feel like my son learns so much about life when he comes out and, you know, learns about what mom does and where we go. But the same, I never try to hide the fact that I have a family and they come first. And if I'm asked to go to something where I can't bring them or they're not allowed, it's not for me. Or if I can't have that time where I need to go do what I need to do, but then I need that time to go back to my family. Because I always say I'm first and foremost a mother. Then I am a wife. Then I am a friend. Then I am a businesswoman. I got my priorities in check, right? Most people go, oh, work comes first. Work is everything. You know, then if I have time for family, great. Friends, who are they? No, the people. That's why I love that we're talking about champion people. The people are everything. Was your wife okay?
Oh, she was okay. Miraculously. Accident was total. Her car totaled her car out. And she was fine. Got a couple bruises. Got a really cool scar on her arm. It's a reminder of that period in her life was the job came first, not her health, not anything else. And job came first, and worked herself to the bone and for an entire weekend as an educator. And again, you talk about our educators, you're talking about people who need champions, those who are in the trenches with our youth, and our children doing great work. And again, her being on the special education side of the house, she will physically harm people to treat those kids correctly and get them the resources they need. She will go to hell and high water for children to get resources. And that's what she was doing to make sure reports were in and some other stuff. And yeah, she's fine now. But that day, once we got a chance to finally talk in the aftermath, it hadn't been positioned correctly where she really didn't have champions. And she was going above and beyond for the minimum acknowledgement. And you said something that just now that I think about in this season of COVID, of where you have 40 plus million people unemployed in the US. And think about those people who every day woke up and said, organization first, organization first, organization first, family wait. And then to be called potentially at home, or you go in and by 9 a.m. you're leaving with a box because the organization needs to make cuts. Because again, from a business standpoint, the quickest way to affect your bottom line is to cut personnel. That's the quickest hit. It's no strategy in cutting people. It's an immediate impact to cut people. And just the mental separation of what I do from your identity that immediately happened for people. Imagine that trauma for people.
Mhm.
And you talk about why mental illness is up, depression is up. It was the all of that happening, COVID,
Yeah.
and the separation of people, places, and things. And that's why I lead with the people part. And that's why that's why I say I'm the organizational development guy,
Yeah.
because individual organizations and whole organizations, to actually have a solid foundation of culture and values. That's why that's my thing. It's ingrained in me. I start there every single time.
And I think about sometimes who they cut are people who have been there because they pay them the most, but they've been there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yep.
I know one of the organizations I worked for, this was pre-COVID, years ago, went through big cuts, and they laid off people who were 2 years away from retirement that had worked there for 30 years. They were known as at that place from being there from the beginning. And it was just, we don't need you any longer, bye. And wow, you think if your whole identity is wrapped up in your job and your whole identity, I mean, first off, that's crazy. But then the person, if all you ever know is that job and that place, and now that's gone, ooh, like you said, the stress and the mental health, and we're doing it backwards when you go organization first, identity and family second and third and fourth, health fifth. Ooh, right?
Yep.
Now, you were talking about, before we got on, about you're hiring a VA, which is so exciting.
Yes.
How do you not micromanage people? Because I think about that
Yeah.
opposite of championing is micromanaging.
Yep.
How do you, or even as an organizational leader and a
Mm-hmm.
leader, how do you not micromanage someone when you know that they do great work and you want them on your team, or they are
Mm-hmm.
working for you on your team?
Yeah. It's again, it goes back to you knowing what your strengths are and knowing where the division of labor should go and where it should be and who should own it, right? Anybody that works for me, there is an extreme, and I say extreme because you have to know, if you come work for me, I'm gonna make you earn your check. And if you say yes to the position description, you need to communicate with me what parts of it don't align with your skill set, and in whole or in part. Because the last thing I want to have on my team is somebody trying to fake it till they make it, right? I'm all for the triers, right? I'm
Yeah.
all for, I want to learn, say that to me, because I want you to know, I'll let you know if that area in my business is a try area, is an experimental area. But if it's on the position description, I have a need for it, and I don't need you to practice on me.
Yeah.
Like, and again, got it. They're going to be, those are called interns. I got to space. I'm going to be looking for an intern as well.
Yep.
Well, no, I know they're trying. They're trying out some new stuff.
Yep.
But if I hire you on to do a thing, to be something for me, and like we discussed earlier before we hit record, it's understanding, yes, you have strengths in these areas. Identify those strengths for me. But if there is something, open communication, because I will over communicate. Anybody who works for me, I start off with something that I learned that I absolutely love, called the win-win agreement. Or any stress happens, before anything ever happens to where it may be construed as contentious, we have this agreement between each other, right? Rainbows, sunshine, and unicorn, right? In the first week, me and Lisa, we sit down and I say, Lisa, you lead. What do you need from me to be successful? And I sit there and I ask, what else? What else? And you're laying it out, right? And then you may not say something. I say, all right, Lisa, you said 3 things. You want me to be happy. You want me to let you off on certain days of the week, and you want to be paid on time. All right, those are cute. Those are things that I'm already due for you. But think about your last boss. What's 2 things your last boss did that you love, and 2 things that got under your skin? Because the last thing I want to do is be a roadblock or hurdle for you, and I end up in the same category as your last boss. So what do you need for me to be successful? And most people, just the thoughtfulness of being able to connect previous work hurt and work baggage that you're bringing to me, that's the human in me. I know as much as we want to believe we left that luggage at that last destination, you got to carry on. you brought a carry-on. And so I'm acknowledging, I understand you have a carry-on.
And it might be over the weight limit right now.
Might be over the weight limit. But hey, let's identify it's there. And then we'll work on shedding it, right? But I need to know that. And then I go into my expectations, right? And then that agreement is how we agree to communicate with each other moving forward. And
I love that.
And the ownership and accountability that's out at, the power of it is, okay, let's say we get to that point where me and you have to have a necessary conversation, because I don't believe, here's a mind shift thing for people, paradigm shift. They're not crucial or uncomfortable or hard or tough conversations. They're necessary. If you're mulling over something, it's probably a necessary conversation. And so you need to deal internally with how weird you are and the anxiety that's coming up for you, because it's a necessary conversation that you need to have with that person. So work it out, rehearse, let them know what we're talking about, and bring up your agreement. Bring up your agreement. Say, hey, you know, Elisa, you said one way you like to be communicated with is direct communication. I failed to ask for the definition of what that meant to you. I have my military directness. What does direct communication mean to you? Because I want to do it correctly. And you go, oh yeah, I guess nobody's ever asked me to define it. And you go down that road, and I'm still championing you because I want us to communicate well. I want you to stay on my team. I want you to thrive. I want you to be happy. And I need you to know that I know you're a human being and you deserve respect, to operate with integrity, me to serve you and remove roadblocks, and us to be excellent together. So how do you need me to communicate? Right. And I think as we navigate this life in this new world order that we're all a part of, it's going to be around accountability and ownership, and how conscious of a communicator are we with each other.
I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader and a boss, even if you want to go the boss route to call you that, you ask questions and you listen.
Yeah.
And you ask the employee or the team member what they need from you. I've never worked for a boss that's ever done that. Listeners, how many of you have had a boss that's done that? And imagine the relationship that would be built from day one when you have those kinds of communication. Yeah. Wow. That is life-changing. That is world-changing. Yep. And you know what it made me think of when you were talking about it? That's how I communicate with my husband. What do you need from me? What does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. That's the way that we communicate with human beings and people that we care about and people that we love and people that we want to champion that we're talking about and people that we want to see. Mm-hmm. I don't believe any boss ever goes into it hoping, well, I really hope they suck at this job and they fail and I have to fire them and they do a terrible job. Yeah. Nobody ever, we are good-natured human beings that want to see people succeed. Yep. And it's hard to fire and rehire and fire and rehire. You want people to stay. Wow, like that just opening process with them is huge. Could you imagine if we had a file folder of that as opposed to all the grievances and disciplinary things? What if you had a file folder of that direct conversation? Yeah. With what people need, what that means to them, how they're going to succeed.
Yeah. And then here's the other paradigm part of it. Close the loop. Yeah. Create the opportunity to check in on the person. And I've been telling, clients and organizations, your check-ins, if your check-ins with your people haven't evolved in this season, where you're starting with a heart question and not a head or performance question, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it wrong. Because again, this is for the mom of four who is on her own, one device in the whole house. They now have to become educator overnight
Mm-hmm.
for four kids at varying ages. And oh, by the way, she still has her whole workload of meetings that are now all virtual with one device in the house. Right. And as business owners, you be like, well, tough. I mean, no, COVID happened to all of us at the exact same time. And it didn't let us pace this thing out. Like it just
Yeah.
immediately, boom, lockdown. And businesses and leaders now are trying to figure out people. Like just how you just said, that is a normal conversation between two people that actually care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to communicate in a way that we don't yell at each other?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Use whatever language you need to get to, but get to it. What makes sense for us in communicating? How can we get through to each other? Right? Whatever words you need to use, because it's about championing people. And people, I used to tell people, military folks, educators, we get paid some of the least amount of money in the world, but we show up every single day. Why? Because we believe in the mission. We believe in what we do. And I always tell them, they're like, man, how would you get soldiers to run through the streets of Iraq, 120-degree weather in full body armor and weapons? How would you get them to chase stuff? Because I did it with them.
Yeah. Yep.
You model behavior.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
it's not a new concept.
Yeah. When I worked at one of my last nursing jobs that I had as a nurse manager, and the home that I was in, there was this written rule that had gone on forever. Talk about organizational chaos.
Yeah.
That managers don't like the employees and we're hard on them and we discipline them and we're trying to catch them.
Yeah.
And employees hated managers. There was just this instant hate. The second you became manager, everybody hated you. And I walked in there and I said, I'm going to do it different. And literally I was feeding residents. I worked in a long-term care home as a manager. Mm-hmm. I was helping them get the residents up and ready for the day. I was doing, when they got behind and they got stressed, I would jump in and they would literally like look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm helping you. I did this at one point in my career. I'm not above this. Yeah. It's not about me. It's not about my title. It's not about your title. It's about the human being that we need to help. So let's come together and help this human being. And other managers would say to me, I have no idea why they don't hate you. They hate me. Why don't they hate you? And I said, because I get elbow to elbow with them, shoulder to shoulder with them.
Yep.
I don't see it as us and them. I see it as this, and we have a job to do.
Oh my gosh. It's almost like, again, and I love the use of word, right, which can be threatening to some, to say unlearn certain things. Like this whole hierarchical military kind of thing, this pyramid needs to be inverted. Mm-hmm. And understand, and I actually clashed with leaders throughout my career when I used to say, I got these wide shoulders for a reason. I was born with these shoulders for a reason. It was to be able to hold others up and be a resource and to serve well, because we always had this thing in the military. It was next man, next soldier up, next woman, who's up next. If I go down, to your point, and I love what you said around, having that group of people that you said, if it all ended today, what would your sign say tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And I use that example with myself is, if I go down, who's next? Right? Because I'm looking for, and it's the bell curve, right? Yeah. I'm looking for the early adopters. I'm looking for, that late majority. I'm looking for the laggards. I'm looking to see who's who, because that's a key indicator for me of where development, focus, energy, all that needs to come from. And then the laggard isn't bad. The laggard just may not have had access and understanding to what next looks like to take over your job. And when I did that in a semicircle, right, being very dramatic, and before deploying to Iraq, and I asked my soldiers, you're all sitting in this semicircle, I said, if I go down, who's next? And you'll call, oh, hi, sir, I got you. And then the following question of who knows what I do? And I looked over to my right hand, Sergeant Trevino, and he's like, all right, we got to get him trained, sir. It was like, because if I go down, because I'm next, right? I'm behind you. And then that's how we knew the cross leveling of duties, of responsibilities. And again, if we get caught in a pickle and we have to be self-reliant, we're going to know how to do it effectively and going to know how to do it well. We're not going to be doing patch jobs. It's going to be as if the person who's the primary is doing it. That's how we develop teams. And that's where efficiency comes from. And that's where you rid yourself and mitigate the risk of bottlenecks. That's where it happens. It happens in the cross leveling. And to me, I would have felt a part of me was missing if I didn't believe they were trained and they could be me. And that's how I champion. And again, like I said, I used to get in full-blown conversation with people like, why are you empowering them that those are if I go down, I got to know they're okay.
Yeah. And that overrides the people will say, well, what if someone's going to come in and try to take your job? Then that's on them.
Scarcity.
Exactly. I don't even think that way. Right. Exactly. That's scarcity. I'm going to hold to my integrity to train them right and teach them right.
Yeah. Oh. So think about this as a concept, right? You talk about championing people. As a business owner, I used to get people who said, the deal is get these long-term contracts, so you got continuous, you can do your budgeting and invoicing well. I said, even as a contractor support, I want to work myself out of a job. I want to help my client gain a skill set that we're not working on the same stuff a year from now.
Yeah.
We've actually evolved the contract, and we just redid the statement of work because now they're ready for something else. I want the contracts and the statements of work to evolve. And guess what? You can record along the way, because as you bring new people on, I want to be a part of your onboarding. Yeah. And I want to live in infamy in this organization. You're paying for it.
Yes.
Why not record it? Let's do it. And people look at me like, no, people want to know they got a partner who's not going to continue to perpetuate single points of failure. Oh, that's not a scarcity mindset. That's an abundance mindset. That I'm gonna keep having the goods for you. Let's keep elevating. Let's keep growing. And I tell you, and it's fun for me. And like you said, it's like, I love Mondays.
Yeah, me too.
Every day is a new day. Every day is a Monday when you're doing what you're purposed to do. And that's the mindset that I have now.
I love that. You were saying networking is like a for you, and fake it till you make it is like a for me. And then don't give it all away. Give them just a little bit so they always need you. And that's what was coming up for me when you were saying that. And I'm like, no, I flipped that on its head.
Yep.
Give them everything so they learn and they grow and they do and they're successful. And then they go, oh my God, I'm feeling this, energy and momentum. Now where are we going?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'd rather have that than, I'm going to just create this little dependency where they need hiring me. Again, that's very scarcity.
Yep.
Not abundant. That's not championing people. Give them the goods. Give them, it always goes back, I think, to my integrity. And I know you're probably the same, right? It's like, did I do my best for that person? That's how I always gut check it. And I love that you said invert the pyramid. Give other people, they want someone to believe in them. create that container, create that place for them to step into.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God. I could talk to you forever. Oh my God.
No, this is awesome. And if I could say one more thing, like that's why I love this season of stillness. And not stillness of nothingness, but to get clarity and to think about myself as a business, myself as an organization, and get really clear and get really granular on who's supposed to be present with me during this season and who am I supposed to be supporting. And I'm so, again, I can't say it enough. Like, geez, it's my new sister. For anybody out there, that's my sister now. She's helped get still, get clear. And again, Lisa, you all are the same way. Just what you do is so necessary. And that's the people I want to be around all the time, that know that they're doing necessary work. And I would say anybody who's trying to ration people, you actually are telling on yourself that you actually have a cap on your capability. And so if you did give it away because you haven't developed over time, you have nothing else left to give. So you have to ration. And so for people like us, we know if I don't get this out, I don't have enough room to get the other stuff that's coming in. So to me, I got to empty out every single time, every single interaction. That's why I need to take a nap after podcasts or anything else, because I gave it everything.
Right.
And webinars, the whole thing, I need to go take a nap. I need to go for a walk. I need to recharge. And to me, if you're not feeling like that after every single interaction, and you with a smile on your face, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing?
Amen to that. Yes. Yeah. And you know what? If I give it to you and you do it better, A, success. B,
100%.
In a fun way, that makes me up my game, because I'm like, oh, I love the way they did that. It was so good. Ooh, how am I going to do it better?
Yep.
Everybody elevates. Everybody grows. Everybody's champion everybody when we do it that way.
Go figure. Cooperation. We cooperate, but the level of us is the competition necessary to continue to help us all win. Just think about that. Everybody on the squad is seeking to level up, like, with each other. So it's like, again, it's not about one-upping each other. It's just like, no, Lisa, like, look at her website. Oh my God, that is so awesome. I need that. And it's like, who? And then my thing is, because I'm not thinking that I'm in competition with you, but it's cooperation. It's like, hey, who's your web designer?
Exactly.
I see that, but I have some other ideas, and I want to sit with them to flush out my thing. But I love what's on your site. And I think that is just like, in people, that scarcity of, that's mine. Oh my God, that's mine. I'm like, you literally just took bread off of somebody's table because you have a scarcity mindset. For what? Like, you really are not going to introduce me to somebody because you're afraid we actually may be better of a partnership than you and them? Wow.
Right? I just think, what a limiting life that is. What a limiting life.
Yeah. That's no fun. It's zero fun. Yeah.
That is not, you're not leaving life with a smile. You
At
are
all.
you are not leaving things you do with a smile with that. What are you most excited about? Last question. Like, what's coming down the pipeline for you, or what makes your heart go, oh, when you think about that in the next little bit?
Yeah. So onboarding brand new coaching clients, onboarding brand new long-term business contracts, coming to you live in August, partnership, collaboration with Ginger, around connecting the ABCs. More to follow on that. But that is coming down. And then, of course, just the work that I'm doing in my brand new PhD program around in organizational leadership. Those four things are what really consume my time and literally make me want to rest so that I have the energy to engage well, to lead well in all those scenarios. And then just the podcasting and other opportunities to create dialogue for people around, this season of social injustice, this educating moment for people in learning what it really means to lead well, be well in this season, and to get clear around who they are. And I want people in my presence to feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable. And so that's what I seek. And that's what I'm excited about in this new season.
Where can they find you if they want to know more about all this goodness that's coming up for you?
Yeah. So the website is www.bossconsultingllc.net. That is www.bossconsultingllc.net. I'm on LinkedIn, full government name, Lawrence E. Henderson Jr. And then Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as Boss Lab, BOSSLLAB. Or you just type in Lawrence Henderson and you'll find me somewhere. But that's where you can find me.
I love it. If you're driving or you got, 6 kids in your hand, don't worry. I will put all that in the show notes. Lawrence, oh my gosh, this has been absolutely incredible. Yeah. Thank you for being so vulnerable, for giving all you've got and showing up and being present and really serving my community. Thank you so much for being here.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. I know you've got lots on your plate. You're managing so much in this time right now as we are shooting this still in the middle of COVID. I know there's lots of places you could be putting your time and energy. And I want to thank you for being here. I never take that for granted. I want to thank you for being here with us today. And we'll see you next time on The Lisa Pezik Show.